Welcome to Booked All Night Season 2. Each week, Jess, Katy, and Maggie launch into new worlds, discover amazing characters, and bring you the best bookish discussions under the stars. We're a cozy little corner of the internet, so be sure to leave a comment and join the polls after each episode. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss a chapter. Alright, my little Libranauts, grab a seat, grab a book, and join us as we explore some new pages. We're starting our series about Heavenly Tyrant by Xiran Jay Zhao, inspired by events of China's first female empress. I'm stepping back from this series, but Katy and Maggie will lead the charge. Please excuse their truly awful Chinese. Chinese is hard. Please beware that this book contains violence and abuse, body horror, mass murder, toxic relationship dynamics, discussions of reproductive coercion, allusions to childhood sexual abuse, and references to miscarriage, domestic violence, sexual assault, and suicide. Without further ado, let's launch into chapters 1 through 10 of Heavenly Tyrant.
Whoo boy. Whoo boy indeed.
What a start. What a start to the book, though.
Sure is. We talked a lot about how we wanted more space to play in terms of, like, the world building and the setting and all that. And we sure got a mouthful of exposition in the first, 4 or 5 chapters. A much deeper dive into laborism than I thought, and I really felt like it was just that one meme of the communist flag slowly domineering over a person, fading in with, a Russian march. Just because they literally have a scythe and hammer at the coronation.
Yes.
It was just not what I was anticipating in my book about queer furry robots blasting each other with space blasts. We start the prologue in the resurrected emperor's point of view. It's basically the story of how Xinjiang got into the position where he currently is. Like, we had some moments with his mentor, a female pirate, General Mi Xuan, and then waking up to Wu Zetian saying, "Hey, can you pilot this?
Mm-hmm.
I need your chrysalis." And he makes a lot of allusions that he mistakes her for his mentor,
Mm-hmm.
and it's starting to feel a little bit like Rune is the lost princess kind of situation. We're gonna find out that Wu Zetian's ancestor is Mi Zhang.
Or she's like a
Mi Zhuan.
reincarnation.
Or she's, yeah. But damn, then we just kind of get Wu Zetian in bed, doing a hunger strike, feeling very much controlled and confined, and
I just want to ping, I guess, like, that hunger strike for later, because I want to talk about that when we get to a certain part, when we get to, like, the very end of this part 1.
Yeah, because that really, it's a really interesting, like, path, like, emotional path that Zetian takes in these first 10 chapters. So we have Zetian waking up, and she's she's trying to figure out what's going on with the gods and Ximen. That's where we left off at the last book, was the gods revealed themselves to her, and she gets sent a video feed of Ximen in basically just a tube of jelly and bubbles and hooked up to wires and tubes and things. And he's basically dangled in front of her like a carrot. Be good and you'll get this back kind of situation.
Right.
Yes, Jessica, I know I'm pronouncing Ximen wrong.
Yes, but just the sound can be made very easily. Make an E with your tongue like you're going to say the letter E.
Mm-hmm.
And then drop your jaw just a little bit, like where it would hang naturally if you opened your mouth.
Okay.
and say the E sound. Sherman.
Sherman.
Anyway.
Is close enough.
So...
It's not
So,
Sherman.
Zishan...
It's not Sherman. It's not Sherman.
Sherman Ultra Plus.
It's semen.
But Zishan and Xinjiang, who I have been pronouncing Qinzhang this entire time in my head until I remembered that the QI makes a ch sound. So it's really it is a strong mental load for me to be like, no, chin, not kin. What was I saying? Right, we open up, they're in the Yellow Dragon, they fly out through the desert in an attempt to find the gods, quote unquote attempt. It's Zishan's just kind of running, right? And they get back to civilization, and she collapses. She's used all of her chi up until this point. She has she's still like this emotionally drained from the loss of Shaman, and she also gets a notification that the other balanced match in the army is on its way to Chang'an. Liu Che and Wei Jifu, who are the Azure Dragon.
And they're 13 and 14.
I'm sorry. Yeah, they're young.
They're
really
very
young.
young.
They keep saying those brats is apparently yeah. I also hate everything about them, at least insofar that we have seen. Especially because they give cringe 13-year-old who thinks, they're so edgy, like everyone at any point in time has felt like. Let's see. So Xinjiang basically keeps Zishan in bed because she's recovering. They have surgically fixed her feet while she was unconscious and in a coma. So they have basically rebroken, and set her bones right while she was recovering from the worst of her chi exhaustion. And she's like, I don't like that, because she did not give her consent. And
no.
It was specifically done not to alleviate her pain, but because Xinjiang has a great distaste for feet bounding, to the point where he attempted to ban it in his era, and it was unsuccessful at the time, mostly because he died or went into cryostasis.
Right. And I also just want to notate that she says, even though she didn't give her consent, she was going to do something like this anyway. She had been thinking about it after she gained control of the country and things settled down. She was going to have that surgery done to herself. So yes, she didn't give consent, but also she had been thinking about it. Which I think maybe he did that because he can access her thoughts, right?
Sort of.
But
it's more like,
but
still, it feels skeevy.
Oh, it is 100%. And I'm not saying that what he did was right. I'm just saying, coupled with his distaste for it. But also maybe his realization that she was having thoughts and she always hated her bound feet and that she was thinking about getting them surgically fixed. I think maybe he felt he had the right to do that. And he doesn't. Yeah, but
he certainly feels like he has a right to do anything about her. And it's especially apparent in these chapters because she is bedbound, unable to walk post-surgery, and in general, just because she's so weak. And he has put armed guards at her door. No one's allowed to speak to her except for her new maidservant, Waner. She can't see Yiji, who is now the Secretary of State, essentially, of the Treasury. I forget exactly what title he acquires in the new regime, but he's up there in the ranks, and she's not allowed to see him anymore. and she's like, wait, why can't I see him? He goes, you know why, and it's because apparently he's gonna marry her, because she decried herself as the Empress, and now they have to make that a reality, because everyone is sort of like, you're just gonna let a hysterical girl, throw you around, you, the legendary Xinjiang?
We also notice at this point that the scars from his flower pox seem to be getting fixed or
Yes.
healing over time. And he's got these little white marks all over his face, and his face isn't as melty, but he is healing. But she's also noticing that there's also something else that's wrong with him. But she doesn't really say anything. She's just like, man, I see that his face is healing. He looks kind of tired.
Yeah. It's strange because he's sort of, there's this juxtaposition of her being at her weakest while he's at his strongest. And then that sort of flips throughout the course of this part. He starts to get more bedraggled, more tired. She finds him passed out on top of a bunch of paperwork at his desk in the new throne room at one point. And she's, still getting used to like walking around. She's got a wheelchair and a cane. And I found it really interesting because at one point she's getting pushed to a shrine because she got a note to secretly meet with Yi Ji at the shrine. And the White Tiger's female pirate, Chelao, is pushing her, right? And so she's helping her move, get up the stairs, letting her lean on her as she's, alternating between the cane and the wheelchair. And then there's a moment later on where Xinjiang takes the wheelchair while she's sitting in it, and she's just like, whoa, this is a person I do not trust, pushing me around so uncontrolled, and it's a really, like, uncomfortable feeling for her to have to be reliant on this unstable person that she does not trust with what is essentially an extension of herself, right? There's a lot of moments where these characters are sort of getting closer together and then spreading apart, and then getting closer together and then spreading apart. Like, they're trying to make breakthroughs in each other's relationship. And at the last possible moment when you think that, oh, maybe these characters are finally going to turn into some sort of, I want to say appliances, but that is the incorrect word. That
Power
word is
couple?
so incorrect. No. What's the... Acquaintances! That's the one I'm trying to say. My brain is so scrambled, I am so sorry. But they're appliances now. You need to remember, this is not an enemies to lovers book. There's no love between them. We finally also get... So she meets Yi Ji in the shrine. And she's like, oh, good, perfect. We can have a little secret meeting. I can finally talk to him. I can share about my grief about Xiamen. And he is being formal. He is fully bowed, eyes averted, like full on 90-degree bow, not looking her in the face because, traditionally the Empress is veiled and no one can look upon her except for the Emperor. And, or at the very least her fiancé prior to the coronation.
He's also dressed as a maid.
Yes, he is dressed as a maid, so that they can like obfuscate this meeting further, and we find out that it's not a secret like lovers meeting that Yi Ji set up. It is by the power of Xinjiang, who is like, I want you to get rid of her, you no longer have attachments to her, and this is how we're going to do it. And it's an entire conversation about they have to let each other go, how he's trying to get Zetian to be like, listen, he's doing a lot of good, he wants to do a lot of good, you will go a lot farther if you stay on his good side. And it's such a betrayal for her. She is not only in this space because she came to let go of Xiamen and she's saying goodbye to his spirit. Now Yi Ji is breaking up with her and being like, Go with the emperor. And she's not happy about that. And all she wants is to like hold him, to be reassured, to share their grief and their trauma together. And he's just like, can't look at you, sorry, can't talk to you in any other way except for this incredibly pompous, formal way. And she's just getting so alienated because of Xinzheng this entire time. You know, she can't trust her maidservant, she can't talk to anyone, she can't go anywhere. Not only because of her own surgery, but also because there are guards at her door and she's not allowed to leave. And there's apparently a lot of dissent in the country and a lot of people who want her dead. The whole reason that the Azure Dragon team is flying over is to get rid of her because they have very Puritan beliefs about her and very much fall into the she was a fox spirit sent to seduce and kill men. So they're trying to get rid of her. And it's just like a really sad time for her overall. And that just this entire like span of chapters, I'm just thinking like, man, this really sucks for her. She's starting in a really bad place. She's either going to get lower and further into like these dark spaces, or she's going to do a complete 180 and this is going to be the most batshit insane time of her life where she's going to be just like shit's in the fan and she is riding the wave of the chaos, right?
But in this scene we also get his involvement in his dad's mafia run business.
Yes,
right.
Yes, and we finally get his full backstory.
And I feel like it wasn't even his full backstory. I feel like it was just a part because when he revealed that, I was like, well, that doesn't seem too bad. Like it does because he's running all these illegal stuff, you know, like the whorehouses, the casinos, all the underground stuff. But then I'm just like, but what did you do? Like, did you kill someone? Did you like torture where, like, how do you really fit in? Because I feel like he's just like, oh yeah, I was the head of the underground stuff. And I'm like, okay. Right. I know that's bad, but you're also not presenting it as real bad.
I think because we kind of had a suspicion already. Like, we knew in the first book that the Gale family is involved in some not so above board dealings, right? Like, that's something that we knew. That's the reason why Zetian went to his father to try and be like, listen, protect me from the sages, we can make you money. Like, she used that corruption against him. And here we find out, you know, not only was he sworn into the mafia at like age 9, I think he said, right? And he didn't understand what that sort of, you know, pact really meant. And we find out that his father basically left him in a room with elderly pedophilic men who he was doing business with because Yi was pretty for a boy for his age. So he was sexually assaulted as a child, and then he just kind of kept digging himself deeper into the mafia. And, you know, a very reasonable explanation for why he so vehemently wanted to murder his father, and then successfully did. But we also find out that, it's not that we find out, we knew he had brothers, we knew that he's like the 5th son, and he has an elder brother who's supposed to step in and take over now that their dad is dead. And a lot of the mafia members are super loyal to him, and they think he's a traitor, and that's why he has sort of aligned himself with the emperor and has taken this position of like state secretary of state, whatever title he ends up getting, in a way to kind of protect himself and to try and make better connections, right? Because he's kind of going into this with the emperor with sort of like good intentions, right? He really kind of understood the plight of the peasants after meeting Zetian as a kid. And now he's trying to kind of help in that effort to bring laborism to the forefront of the country and reduce the corruption and decadence that the country has fallen in. And man, these last couple of chapters in this part are hitting very close to home in this current political era of ours.
I agree, like, because he joined this new government because he was like, listen, I've been getting secrets my whole life. Like, I've been digging down. I've been getting dirt on all these people in the government and, you know, all these high-ranking officials. And I can help you because I know all the dirt on these people, right? And I agree that he wants to kind of help the Emperor bring his vision, you know, to reality. And I also know that he joined because it stops his older brother from killing him for killing his father. But I'm still not trusting him fully, right? I still
There's
think
a lot we're not getting. Like, I feel like there's a lot missing still.
Yeah.
And
like,
to be fair, we're 100 pages into this 550 page book, so I'm sure there's more to come.
Right, there's gotta be. But at the same time, I feel like he could just switch to a whole different form of government. You know, he's going to do what's best for him, and he will literally rat out anyone who gets in his way because he's a survivor, and survivors do some really sketchy shit.
Yeah, the scene where he breaks up with Zetian in the shrine, I am still thinking about that, mostly because I just read it like an hour ago at this point, but mostly because you know, Zetian has lost the two people that she is closest to, and there's a lot of grief there as a character, and it's really kind of like starting her character journey at the start of this book at a very low point.
Yes.
And she's not only alienated from her closest people, one is, you know, kind of being held on life support in the Heavenly Court, and the other is rooting out corruption in the Emperor's new government. That was the failed title for Emperor's New Groove, when it was a completely different story, by the way. Anyway, wow, this ADHD medication is not helping me. I need to talk to my psych. Anyway, for the fourth time in a row, anyway. You know, we start Zetian off at a very low point, and that's sort of a really common indicator of the story moving in a way that is going to uplift her pretty soon. But as I kind of spoiled myself a little bit while flipping through the chapters to figure out how we're going to break this discussion up, the story's not over.
Right.
It's not over at this book. There's more. There's a to be continued, and we always know that the hardest shit hits... Wait, there's more. The hardest shit hits the fan right before that to be continued, flashing up at the end of the story. So we know it's gonna take that emotional character arc from this low point up and then just straight down like a hard drop on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm ready for that, emotionally speaking. But one of the other things I really wanted to bring up in this part was the spirit armor. So she goes on a hunger strike because she refuses to eat and drink until she is able to be given some freedom back. So she wants her spirit armor, and she wants to be able to leave the room. She doesn't want to be bedbound. She doesn't want to stay here or be forced to stay there, right?
Right.
And, you know, she sort of thinks that she's going to get the vermilion bird armor back, even though it's been completely destroyed at the end of the last book. And so she gets the yellow dragon's spirit armor instead, which is not only in a elemental type that she is not proficient with, it is also the earth type, which is staunchly known as the most, like, immovable, unforgiving sort of spirit element, right? So she can't control it at all, and that's sort of juxtaposed by the Emperor, who can make it so malleable it's like thread coming out of his fingers.
Right.
And she thought that by getting this armor, she would be freeing herself. She'd have that sort of freedom of movement again that she didn't have this whole time in her recovery. But she notes that the armor is just like another cage, because she can't control it. Only he can. He can restrict her movement, and like when they're fitting her for it, he's purposefully squeezing it a little bit tighter just to kind of get back at her at this sort of petty revenge, because she was sassy with him and he was sassy with her. And there's even a moment later on when she finds out Sima Yi is alive, the strategist that basically betrayed them so that they would get killed during the battle. And she's trying to lunge at him and murder him, because she's like, you almost murdered me, you did murder Shaman, and look at this, you betrayed us, why did I trust you? And Xinjiang is just like, he puts a hand on her shoulder and her entire body locks up because the armor constricts around her. She can't even get a full breath because it's so tight around her, and she can't move because he has complete control of her facilities. She references herself as worse than a game piece, more like a doll to him, where he can pose her any way that he wants, and she feels so trapped by that. I
think what really sucks here is at this point, right, with the armor and him controlling it and him making her wear a veil and everything like that, I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly what she doesn't want. She doesn't want to be controlled by men, and she keeps getting passed off to be controlled by men, like the first pilot, and then Shaman. And even though he was a little bit, they created a bond, they had love for each other, all that stuff, they were still under the patriarchy. And then she goes to try to like literally get rid of that, and she wakes up this dude, this legendary dude, and now he's doing this to her. It's exactly what she didn't want. And I feel so bad. Like I just want to kick them all in the balls.
So much.
Like, stop.
She makes a point of saying, she wants to kill him. Like that is still her plan, is to get rid of him at some point. But she does also kind of make the point that like, okay, I clearly would not have been able to make all of these broad sweeping changes that he has managed to do in a couple of weeks. Because she had no plan after she took down the watchtower and stomped down the sage's palace, right? She had no idea what she was doing after she, got through the plan of just murder everybody. She was very murder hobo-y. She was kill first, ask questions never kind of mentality going in. And she recognizes that as her own flaw, and she's like, oh yeah, I would have been deposed immediately. Like she would not have been able to do this, complete flip of the governmental structure. And she feels woefully unprepared for a lot of things. Her maidservant has brought her a bunch of books so that she can study more on chi and how to manipulate it more effectively to actually be able to, move her own armor and stand a chance against Xinjiang. And she has to have Wanner read it to her, because Wanner can read. Wanner is very smart. She is a somewhat disgraced noble who had never had her feet bound and was kind of on the outskirts of society, so she could learn, and so she knew how to read. She knows how to she understands a lot of like complex topics that Zeishan kind of falters at. And she's like, there's this book about metaphysics that she can't read because she doesn't know half the characters that make up the text. And she's kind of coming to terms with her own flaws. And then we kind of get a huge role reversal in that last scene. We get the coronation. It's this big old hullabaloo to do. No more ads anywhere. It is very much like a ritual proceeding. It is very much stately and orderly, and how you would expect like some kind of ancient tradition of coronation to go. And this entire time, Xinzheng is going off on a rant about rising and revolutionizing and putting the power back in the workers' hands. And as we get towards the actual coronation part, he starts to cough up blood. And this entire thing is
before
being...
that.
Yeah.
Before that.
Yeah.
Before we get there. They're waiting because the outside part of the ceremony, she has a body double, right?
Yes.
And so they're inside and they're watching the TV. They're watching the TV of the ceremony going on, because once the body double gets to the palace and they get in, they go inside, that's when they're going to take over, right? And during that, they're because the emperor does not have any electronics around him. He doesn't use them. He doesn't let her use them. Nothing, right? No wristlets, no tablets, nothing. And she's figuring out that the Heavenly Court only talks through electronic devices, right? So they're watching the ceremony, and a message comes for her through the TV and says, Zetian, be a dutiful wife, be a dutiful mother, in pretty much no terms, or, in no other terms, be the puppet you're supposed to be, right? Be the woman that, that we deemed for you, right?
Yeah.
And then
control
they show
your unruly husband.
Right. And then, just sit down, shut up, and follow what your husband says, right? And they show her shemen again.
Follow
right?
not what the husband says, but what the gods say, because Xinzheng is very much against the gods, and he's kind of not been subtle about it. And so basically it's the gods saying, hey, here's the law of the land, you listen to us, or you're not going to get this. And they show Shemin in the tube. Oh my god.
Right. And I had a revelation during this. I think you're supposed to, right? What husband do they mean? Because technically, if Shemen is still alive, she's still technically married to him.
She is still technically married. So my favorite thing about that scene, though, was the moment where she's like, how do I even know that, why should I even follow your, be afraid of your threats? How do I even know he's alive? And she doesn't have proof of life. And they make him open his eyes, and he's thrashing around trying to kick off all these tubes and things connected to him. And all the air gets released as bubbles because he's screaming. And she just gets so hyper focused on that everything else falls away. She can't hear Xinzheng trying to get her back, and he's about to smack her, to be smack some sense into her, and she catches his wrist and is like, don't you fucking dare. And I'm just like, hoo boy, she's back. That probably blew out my sound. And she throws a vase at the TV, shattering it, and she's like, oh, I kind of regret that, because I could have looked at the video a bit more and tried to figure out where exactly the Heavenly Court is. Because Sima Yi also got a directive from the gods. He's basically now there as the divine interpreter. He gets the messages from the gods because both Xinzheng and Wu Zetian don't have electronics around them at all. So that's the only way that the gods can talk to them. And he was shown a picture of basically the blue marble of Earth from outside the atmosphere, right? You get the curvature of the Earth, you get the coastline, the lights of all the provinces, and basically what you expect from a satellite photo of Earth from space. And he's just like, oh, it's so beautiful. He's immediately devout. He's become very, very religious and very much believing in the gods. And so Zetian used that as an opportunity to be like, I wonder if that can tell me about the exact position of where the court is, where can I find them, and trying to deduce from whatever cues she can find in the book, in the image. But of course it gets deleted. But, ooh, that is some juicy gossip there. I'm 100% more onto the theory that the gods are just a bunch of, like, scientists and engineers and astronauts and, like, social experimentists living in, like, a space station. Because in Xinjiang's time, 200 years ago, they only communicated by, beep, 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 telegram.
Morse code? Telegram.
I don't know if it was Morse code, but it was telegram. Because they don't appear in spiritual visions and all that. So it's really cementing this idea with these kind of clues dropped throughout both the end of the last book and these 10 chapters of these gods are not gods. They're human. There's something masquerading as gods. Yeah, they're limited because they play back a conversation that Zetian had with Chelao about how she was like, do you ever think the Hunduns are sentient? Like, do you ever hesitate to kill them because of all the emotions? Do you think they're real like you and me? And they're like, that's a no, you can't talk about that or we kill them kind of stipulation, rule. And it's just so, I really want to see the gods and I really want to see Zetian literally just kick them from their little heavenly space station and out into space, and she's the new god, Goddess Wu.
You know what I think of when I think of the Heavenly Court? Like in Dragon Ball Z, where they have like the clouds that people like float on. And I feel like they're just kind of like zooming in on their little clouds and they're like, oh look, we have this tablet. Let's take a picture.
The cloud is actually just a Segway, but the wheels look like clouds. But yeah, no, that's like a common thing in like a lot of, because I've been reading a lot of oh god, I forget the term for it, but a lot of Chinese like martial arts stories, and they depict the gods a lot, and that's like a common like mode of transportation for the gods is the clouds, right?
It's the clouds, yeah.
It's the clouds. And also the triangle came back again. They changed all the flags. I just remembered. They changed all the flags. The old flags used to be like a flower on like a pastel yellow field, right? And the new flag is the old flag, technically, is from Qin's time, is a red dragon head or a gold dragon head on a red triangle on a black field. And I'm just like, aha, triangle. There it is. Strongest shape. We're going to get the threesome back, I hope.
We're going to get the team back.
Yeah. And so anyway, we get to the end of the coronation. And after his big speech, and as he's about to place the crown on Zetian's head, Xinjiang starts to cough up blood. You know, he's got the flower pox. It's not clearly the vaccines aren't working or aren't as effective as he had wanted, and he has been like sallow-faced and tired and all that. And he collapses while this entire thing is streaming nationwide, right? And they manage to cut the feed because, like Twitch, there's a 10-second delay, and they're able to sort of try and rush to change the scene and hope that it's just like everyone thinks it's just a glitch in the system. And Zetian kind of like does that thing where she swoops back into command, and she's got more power for the first time in like this entire section of the book. She's commanding people like, you go there, take that, make sure that we're visible but only like blurry in the background while you zoom in on Sima Yi's face so that he can end the ceremony. And she's trying to appear strong while
and married.
And married and coronated. She gets to put her own little crown onto her top knot. And you know, we've got that we do have that sort of like he's you know, got the commanding strength. He has the loyalty and like the legend of himself boosting him up in the eyes of the people. So he's got like this commanding presence, but he is physically weak because he is diseased. He's got flower pox and he's slowly dying, and she's got a lot of physical ailments as well, other than like, you know, just her surgery on her feet. But she has no commanding presence. She's seen as hysterical. She's seen as diabolical. You know, the Azure Dragon pilots try to murder her in the middle of the night, and she has a hallucination. This is in the middle of her hunger strike, so she has a hallucination of Shaman, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta go hide, girl." And she locks herself in the bathroom when they come bursting in trying to murder her. And she now has to put on this brave face, this strong face, and be, you know, she has to be the strong one because one of them has to be, because they have to present this unified front. They have to present they have to, you know, appear strong to the masses. They're trying to push this narrative. And it's just, I've lost the words again, but yay, double thumbs up, really enjoying, can't wait to see how the rest of the book goes.
But yes, so I do have something I want to talk about, and there it's heavy duty, right? Like, so it's a heavy subject, trigger warnings. We know the trigger warnings for this book, so you know, they're there. So when that message comes in and says, be a dutiful wife, be a dutiful mother, I was thinking, oh, which man are they talking about? Because she's still technically married because he's still alive. And then I was like, but she isn't a mother. And then I was like, well, what if she was, like, you know, pregnant before all this started happening, right? And then I was thinking, and then I started thinking, well, if she was on a hunger strike, she would have had a miscarriage by now because she hadn't been eating, and, you know, so it's very confusing. Is she pregnant? Is she not pregnant? You know, like, and whose baby is it? Is it Iza's or is it Shaman's?
I don't know, because I feel like she's not pregnant yet. Because I did see the word pregnancy when I was flipping through the pages to get the chapters for how we're going to split up the discussion. I saw the word pregnancy, and I'm like, is there actual pregnancy in the book? Because I don't like that in fiction. But I did also kind of spoil myself on TikTok because I follow Xiran's TikTok. And they were posting about the book and little bits and pieces. And I'm like, I see. So I kind of know the answer. And spoilers,
don't spoil
I guess.
Okay,
I won't spoil it. Never mind.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
I won't spoil it.
Because I want to know, like, if she's pregnant now or not, but I also want that to kind of be a surprise. Because I feel like with this hunger strike, and that's why I said I wanted to notate that hunger strike, because she didn't eat for days, you know? And so, like, especially depending on where you are in a pregnancy, that could be very, very harmful.
Because she went into a coma, so they had all their little fun, sexy time stuff before the big battle. And then the battle happened, everything, all the trauma and all that, the chi exhaustion. And then she went into her coma, and she was in the coma for an indeterminate number of weeks. We just know it's been a length of time, a significant length of time. And I'm trying to think if somewhere along that trauma, if that somehow I don't know how pregnancy works. I'm terrified of pregnancy. It is a big squick for me. I don't involve myself. So I don't know if that trauma would have, like, made the pregnancy viable. I don't know.
Maybe not inviolable, but it would have had a negative effect.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to see in how the details work out. Because I'm really wondering, like, how is Zeishan's and Yiji's relationship going to progress over the course of the next few chapters? And whether or not they get back together, if they resume the triangle, if eventually Shaman gets resurrected. But I'm really interested in how the character relationships develop, and I really am itching to get to the next handful of chapters.
Oh yeah, I really am, because technically she did not marry him. She did not marry the Emperor. I don't remember his name.
Not yet. At least. Not in this part.
No, because they didn't go through with the ceremony because he was coughing up blood.
Oh yeah,
and so
that's true. They cut it short.
So technically,
well, I don't know if they get married at the coronation or if it's a separate thing.
I mean, if they're coronating her to Empress and he's the Emperor, you would assume that you got to be married for there to be a coronation. Because she can't just be the Empress without being married to him.
Well, can't she?
Yeah,
he's got some pretty forward-thinking morals, progressive thoughts.
Yeah, I mean,
but we'll see. I
don't know.
Am
but,
excited.
I'm
ready to read.
She ain't married to him.
Yeah, I feel like Xiran really finally got the space to expand, where Iron Widow felt very compressed, very tight. Felt like it was missing some stuff, but Heavenly Tyrant so far, like, I kind of joked about it at the beginning. We got a lot of exposition to chew on in the first couple of chapters. We got a lot of, like, history. We got a lot of the metaphysics. We got a lot of, like, name dropping and all that. But we also get a lot of fucks in the narration. They say fucking so often, like at least twice a chapter, where previously I think we only had like one or two in Iron Widow. So I feel like on like a age-based sort of maturity level, we've managed to, I don't want to say level up, but we have kind of entered that R-rated space, I think. At the very least, we have left PG-13 behind in the dust.
We technically haven't, because of those two pilots who talk like, internet trolls.
That's true.
The 13 and 14-year-old who are like, stop it, Harlot, you are corrupting our emperor, and for that we shall vanquish you. And
meet
like,
your
okay,
nightmare. She's like, that's not even the line. That moment was really funny.
I'll kill you and the knight.
But I am excited to see, because it feels like Xiran now has a lot more space to work with. So I feel like a lot of our complaints from the first book might be assuaged in this one.
It might. We have, 430 more pages to go, so it
Something
could,
like that.
easily go back to being too compact, depending on where where the author wants to go with this. Who knows? Who knows how it will be written, and if we still have the same complaints or not. But you're right. I do feel it has shifted. I joked about the ages of the pilots, but I do feel that the maturity level has kind of shifted just slightly up. And it started off real well. I'm like, okay, I'm excited. I really am.
I am mostly really excited to find out when the heck this whale bird shows up, because that thing is awesome. Like, it's a whale with wings. Where's the whale bird, Xiran? Where's the whale bird?
Can we get a shark bird, please? Like a shark with wings? Like, I would like that very much.
That feels like a good moment to fade out on. I'm excited. Shark bird, hoo ha ha.
Actually, I have a question for the both of you.
We're not taking questions at this time.
Yeah.
Only if you can speak your question in perfectly accented Polish will I accept your question.
Oh.
Or Mandarin.
Listen, I think Polish is harder than Mandarin, okay? There are at least vowels in Chinese. There are none in Polish. I'm convinced
Just
your
lots
whole
of
name is
S's
made of
and C's and
consonants.
C's.
Yes. S's and Z's and C's and
R's.
CHK every once in a while. Like, But my question is, during her hunger strike when she was hallucinating, and she saw Leigh Shimen, was that definitely a hallucination, or do you think it was actually like their connection from being in the chrysalis?
We don't know. We don't really get an answer on that. She kind of, she goes, you're not real, like you're dead. Like she is not very definite, because like clearly it's she's getting a warning to get up and go, whether or not that's just like her own self-preservation masquerading as her lost loved one or actual connection. Like, because he would have to, in that connection, he would either have to be like conscious of what's going on. I feel like he's kind of asleep in the tube. So
because
yes,
right,
let us not forget how you're listed in my sister's phone.
Oh.
But
viewers at home, there's a lot of just going.
Wasn't she still having dreams and memories come from their connection after he died, before she knew that he was even in the tubes?
She was having dreams about him. I don't know. It wasn't ever really clear if it was from the connection or if it was just, her having nightmares about, the loss.
Well, I think, so I bring that up just to say, I think it's a little bit of both. I think she was hallucinating, but because of their connection, he was coming to her to say, like, hey, stop hallucinating and run. Like, I think it might be a little bit of both.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm sure that'll come up if it is.
Yeah, there's a couple names that I can't wait to see what you do with. One is Shangguan War, and yeah. I think
the
I
maid
listened
servant?
to...
I called her Wan-er, I think. Wan-er, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not...
close.
It's not Wan-er, it's Wa-ar. Because of course it is.
Okay,
I'm
well...
still gonna end up mispronouncing it. I'm trying, but...
Again, I am going to interpret this book how I want to support my needs.
That's a wrap on this episode of Booked All Night. We'd love for you to be a part of the conversation, so don't forget to rate the show, drop a comment, and share your thoughts in the episode poll. And remember, subscribing means you'll never miss an episode or interview as we launch into more amazing stories together. Booked All Night is produced by Rob Cook and his cats. So when you share your favorite episode, be sure to tag us at Booked All Night Pod on Threads, Instagram, and Facebook, and say hi to our guy in the sound booth. For more information, like reading schedules and dates on our upcoming interviews, check out the link in the show notes. That's link.bio/bookedallnight. lnk.bio/bookedallnight for those of you who don't check the show notes. Until next time, my little Libernauts, this is Jessica Mary, Kay Leigh, Magdalyn Ann, and producer Rob signing off and reminding you to stay booked all night.